So today we're going to be talking about how to be a more human-centric tech leader. And to chat through that with me, I've got Raphael. How are you doing, Raphael?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you for the invite, man.
Oh, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you're a busy man. So I came across you on LinkedIn. You seem to be pretty active on there, and I'm assuming probably like a few other people that we've had on, people would have seen your name here or there. But for anyone that hasn't, tell me a little bit about yourself and your background, and kind of what you're working on, really.
Yeah, sure. So basically, I'm working with software engineering for the last 16 years, maybe 1 decade in leadership roles. And right now, I am working as a director of engineering at Zendesk, but I must say that I am dedicating a lot of my time now for with my passion, which is coaching the next generation of leaders that we have, specifically tech leaders. And with this nuance, I would say, because I think we have a very traditional approach for leadership specifically in tech, in which we all think being a great leader is to being technically great. And I am coming to defy a little bit this assumption and to add maybe a controversial point here, which is you should be looking to people instead of that much on tech. So basically, in the last 2 years, 1 year and a half, 2 years, I am dedicating a lot of my time on coaching people that really want to step in leadership, specifically for tech professionals, but not strictly uh, uh, only for techs, with this nuance. So helping them to develop human skills to become a better leader, become a better tech leader.
Fantastic. Yeah, because I think that's like very common, right? Like people become the best engineer on their team, they're promoted to team lead, then all of a sudden they're a
Yeah.
manager, and like they've just been the best technically. And that's the only reason why they're in a management position, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with their ability to be a manager, manage people, lead people, all of that kind of stuff. And they're just kind of sat there and that all they know is like, well, if everyone just does things like me and like and more of I create more mini versions of myself, like that, then that'd be great. And a lot of the time, the only thing that they know is the way that their brain works and the way that they've been taught and the way that they've been managed and the way that they like to work. And when all of a sudden you've got 5 or 6 plus people working for you that all have very different brains and backgrounds and specialities and like ways of working and all that kind of stuff, like it's not going to work for everyone, right? So you need to really be able to lean on a completely different skill set, like as a manager than that you've been used to kind of technically throughout your career. So same reason that I started this pod, like I think there's a lot of people out there that are kind of thrown into these management roles and kind of need that advice. So really excited to kind of get stuck into this for you. And I guess you got a book out as well, right? This
Yes,
isn't
yes, yes.
purely just to plug your book, I promise. But like, tell us a little bit about the book, because that's amazing thing to have written a book on this topic as well.
Yes. So on June this year, I got a book published, The Engineering Leadership Playbook, in which focus a lot exactly on this topic. Like when I when I developed this hidden passion, I would say I was reflecting a lot in my career. And I am someone that really likes to read and really like to consume content from books. But I always struggled to find something that spoke my language. Like when we have a bunch of great leadership books out there, but they are all generic in a sense that maybe it's not that much easy to relate that a specific concept in engineering. How can I actually deliver the candid feedback for an engineer? You know, how can I actually do a better performance review on tech? How can I aim for potential? And when I was writing down this book, that was the main premise. So I really love this ethos, this energy, and this mindset of helping tech leaders to become less techy and way more people driven. So why not approach the book in this way? And it's interesting because basically I wrote my book 3 times. The first time I was strictly focusing on engineering stuff, like let's focus on building high performing team. So how can I implement agile things? How can I conciliate and prioritize with product? And I said, okay, man, but this is just what we already have. What can I actually deliver that it's completely uncommon for the field? And then this came to the point where the book is for everyone thinking about becoming a tech lead, but providing them with some insights on different types of leadership, on how to create a customer centricity environment and how you can foster an environment where your team understands first the why before the hows, how to become a better mentor, a better coach. And then the last 3 chapters of the book, they are extremely dedicated for performance, but performance not code wise, from the people perspective. How can you promote better? How can you hire better? How can you remove bias? How can you retain the best talents? How can you promote? How can you fire? So it's way more focused on positioning engineering leaders as partners rather than just executors.
Oh, I love that. And I now want you to give me as much of that book as possible without making it that people don't need to buy your book, because I still want people to buy your book. So yeah, let's dive into it. Becoming a human centric like tech leader. So first of all, what does that mean to you, a human centric
Yeah,
tech leader?
yeah. So a human centric leadership approach in engineering is when, for a leader in specific, a tech leader, is when you recognize that the game has changed. You are playing with different rules, and the definition of success that you were used to have before does not work anymore. The code, yeah, people unfortunately don't care more about your code. People really care on your capability to motivate people, to inspire people, in your capability to position your team in a way that they do stuff, they get things done, not in a way just because they have a task, because they have a deadline, because they believe in the purpose, because you have shared the vision, because you have connected all the dots and included your team as part of the decision making, because you provided them opportunity to grow, you provided them opportunity to cry, because you have the growth pains associated on that. But it's not to blame, it's to grow, it's to nurture your talent. But I would say that it's a bit cliche, but the most important part here is to really know your people for who they are, not for what they can do. Everyone can write code, man. Everyone can write code. Give me, like, you can hire someone from outside, provide this person a little bit of technical courses, and eventually this person you will get there. But it's completely different when someone deliver a baby and you are basically one of the first persons to see the picture. Hey, the kid is saying hi, the baby is saying hi to you, Rafa. By that point, when you can create this kind of connection, then you are way more focused on people rather than techie. And one very big misconception that we have here is being human centric. It's not about making people happy. It's not about making people like you. This is not being human centric. This is probably you trying to enter in a popularity concourse or something like that. But the thing is, a human centric leader will deliver a meaningful feedback, an actionable feedback, as painful as this feedback might sound. This person will create opportunities for you to grow based on your weaknesses in your areas of improvement, but also creating the right opportunities for you to shine, to put your strengths in practice, you know. But another very significant trait here is that a human centric leader learns how to work in the shadows. We don't need the spotlight on us. The spotlight is on the people that really did the job. I like to say that we celebrate, we expose the wins for like your people, but we get the hits. Like whenever things go wrong, we take extreme ownership and we are the first one to take the hit. So unfortunately, probably this is the most frustrating for some people, a part of being a tech leader, because you are not in the spotlight anymore. The cards, the task that you have closed, that you have contact with the immediate impact, you don't have anymore, man. Like you need to work from the corner, from the darkest side of the room, because you are orchestrating, you are creating opportunity for others. You are not the smartest person in the room, you are the facilitator. So that's how I define a human-centric tech leader.
And that must be really hard for people that have gone from, like you said, being the most technical and potentially talented person on the team and kind of like risen through the ranks like that and like accolades the whole way through of great
Mhm.
job, great job, great job. And then all of a sudden they've got to get everyone else recognition rather than themselves.
Yeah.
So like how do you deal with that? Like, because that must be quite a shift in like I guess just how you go about doing your job in general to try and enable others rather than actually get recognition or praise yourself must be quite
hmm
a big change.
hmm I must say that I gave up at least 3 times when I jumped into leadership. Exactly because of that, because I use it to have the attention. I progressed until a staff position as a senior, as a software engineer. I became a leader, and I gave up twice or 3 times because I felt really frustrated, because I didn't know how to manage this mindset. I didn't know how to pitch my ideas and how to take credit indirectly. And the thing is, it's not because you are working from the shadows that you cannot add your touch here, because you need to communicate, you need to set, because you are now a facilitator. Like maybe it's not that evident that what you are doing, the impact that you are delivering, but you are now an obstacle remover, a facilitator. You are a gardener, I would say. So it's pretty easy by the time that you frame your mindset that your success now is reflected on your team's success. It makes it's way lot easier to overcome this obstacle, to overcome this frustration. you know imagine something like that. Like you are working with a senior engineer for 1 year, like you are preparing this person to become a leader, and in the next reward cycle, bam, you promote. You must feel proud. You must feel proud. Like that project,
Yeah.
a super complex project that you are driving, the team is driving, and so many unknowns and very tight deadline, high impact, super, super tricky, but you removed everything. You created an environment where your team thrived, you know? So you are there. You will be remembered intrinsically. It's just, in my opinion, it's just how you frame your mindset. Like it's not about you anymore. Your success now is measured on the impact that the people that work with you deliver. And by the time that you understand that, you can understand the impact that you are delivering with very fresh eyes.
Yeah. And you can have so much more impact, right? Because obviously
Way more.
you as an individual contributor, like yes, you get all of the accolades of well done. You specifically did that thing, well done, like thank
hmm
you. But if you can be managing 5, 10, 15 plus people all, and you're enabling, like you said, removing roadblocks and enabling all of those people to achieve those things, like the amount of impacts that you're having, the amount of accolades that are
Mm-hmm.
like filtering up to you, like a massive, right? Like across an organization and just in general, like if you're missing that part of it when you transfer to leadership, you kind of just got to collect every single well done that everyone under you gets and be like, that's mine, that's
Mm-hmm.
mine, that's mine.
Yeah.
And ultimately you can drive a lot more. So you kind of broke these down for me into a number of different sort of principles. If you don't mind, we'll kind of run through them. So
Mm-hmm.
first one you've got is demonstrating vulnerability. Do you just mean as like a leader, like admitting sort of like your own mistakes and challenges and things like that? Because that seems to be quite common at the moment that people are
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah. But not only that, like recognizing, honestly, I do expect from people that's the minimum. Like if you did some mistake, like take ownership of your mistake. But the thing is, sometimes people feel very frustrated because they are struggling with the job. Let's imagine an aspiring leader. This person is just struggling with the mindset, is struggling to understand the new rules of the game. And basically, like this person, it's just so close that they cannot even get help. And the part where you should demonstrate some vulnerability here is like, man, I have been there as well. And you know what? It's shitty. I had exactly the same experience, and I felt like I was hammering my head into the wall. I was just trying to find all the answers by myself because I was not trusting on my team. And I did really well with that. So I understand you. There is no big deal here, demonstrating some empathy, some compassion. And another interesting fact here, like sometimes I am just not good enough. I'm not feeling good enough to perform my best or to bring my best version. And I will say to my team, dude, like, can we postpone this conversation, or can I participate this in a more indirect manner because I'm not feeling my best, my best version here. So, and it's completely okay, Chris. Like people, unfortunately, we have this misconception or a bad image that we always need to be the good guy or have all the answers or feeling great all the time. No, man, we have bad days as well, and it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to demonstrate that we are not good. It's okay to demonstrate our areas of improvements as well. Like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know yet. Give me a few minutes. I will get the answer for you, because right now I don't know. I need more information. And it's okay to say that you don't know. You don't need to know everything.
Yeah. Sure, and I think that's such a good thing. And I think myself personally, on different days, I feel like comfortable doing different things. It's not like I'm
Mm-hmm.
either like on or off. Some days I'm just like I can't do meetings today. I can't do one-on-ones today because like I'm just running a little bit low on energy, or like something has happened in my personal life that's kind of like got 50% of
Mm-hmm.
my attention. But I can do ton of admin. I can get into some real deep work sessions around other stuff. So I can still be super productive, but just not necessarily the things that were already scheduled on my calendar. And if, say, for example, you've got a bunch of your teams like one-on-ones like scheduled for a day where your mind is elsewhere, they're getting 50% of you in what is a
Mm-hmm.
really, really important time for them, right? And like, that's not good for them. But also if you demonstrate that vulnerability is like, hey, like I'm not feeling too great, do you mind if we do this tomorrow where I can give you my full attention? Like, you're going to get the same back from your team, right? Like they're going to tell you, oh, like this is like I can't meet with you today, however I can get this done and I'll be in a much better headspace to meet with you
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow. And I think a lot of this comes down to, and I'm sure this is one of the other points, comes down to the trust that you have with your team, right? Because I think a lot of people don't do this because they expect people to be like, oh, like they'll skive and they'll kind of take the piss a little bit with like, oh, I don't really feel up for it today, like blah blah blah. But I think
Mm-hmm.
actually demonstrating that you if you're a little bit lower on energy one day and then you're above it the next day, like, and the impact that can have, and what they get from you on the good days. So I think that creates a lot of trust for them to be able to do that back.
Yeah. Totally agree.
For sure. Your second point was be accountable for your mistakes, which we kind of covered there. Were there any specific examples that you've got of times where you've been accountable for mistakes that have really resonated with your team?
Yes. Recently, I had a very interesting situation where we had a critical project running, a lot of pressure, a lot of ad hoc requests. And there was one specific situation where I judged that one of my managers had a lack of judgment. And basically we made a decision where it was too early to make that decision. And then this generated a very pushy feedback to set expectations and to define what success looks like, And during this feedback session, I was really sharing, like, I felt very frustrated because I right now I am feeling that whenever we have a critical decision to be made, I am the bottleneck because you are just relying on me instead of making your call and experimenting and etc. It was it was a very uncomfortable conversation. And it was really nice because this person really waited for me to conclude and to listen how I was feeling about the topic. And then he dropped the bomb. Like, man, but I asked if we had a blocker, any urgent situation, or a threat from customers to churn or something like that. And he said, okay, but you didn't do that. And then he dropped me the Slack link with the message. And I said, okay, so probably I am the one having the bad judgment here. So I really apologize for you all for listening, like, this monologue, this 10-minute monologue about my feelings about this situation, But like, the lesson learned here: ping me or poke me if you don't have the answer that I need to provide you to ensure that you are comfortable making the decision. DM me, bother me, So, but for now, I really apologize. It was genuine, the feeling, and this is also attached to the vulnerability, because I could say, oh, that's it, man. That's the situation. I expect you moving forward. I expect you to have a better judgment, And here is the trust point that you mentioned, is when you care so much with your people that consequently your people will care so much with you. And you create an environment where people are actively listening to your frustrations, to your feelings, but they are also delivering to you what you need to hear. And this you can also only achieve if you build the trust. So, and this trust is created only if when you recognize that you are also part of the team and you are also doing mistakes and you are also learning every day. And it's super important to position yourself and to recognize when you just screw it up things, and recognize and to understand how can you be better in the next time.
Yeah, but I love the way that you kind of described that, because it could quite easily have you been like, well, you should have messaged me again. Like, I obviously didn't see it. Like, it's your fault. Or you could have been like, oh, it's my fault. I missed it. Like, God's sake. And, like, do you know what I mean? Got annoyed at yourself, but you're just like, hands up. That was me. How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Like that. That's, do you know what I mean? Like that's the best thing I think that you can do in that situation, is rather than being like pointing, oh, you could have done this better, I could have done this better, just being like, cool, like, yeah, that was probably on me, but like next time, like, how obviously we're both expecting the other person to do something at that point. Like, how do we make sure that this doesn't happen? If you don't hear back from me on something that's important to you, like, message me again to make sure that I've
Yeah.
seen it, because it might get missed, and then
Mhm.
problem doesn't happen again, right? Or if they don't message you to follow up on something, it's then kind of on them moving forward, right, rather than on you so much. And like, do you know what I mean? It's up to you guys to kind of figure that out, which is
Mhm. Mhm.
I think the best way of dealing things. The next one you got down is walk the talk, which I guess I've had walk the walk and I've had talk the talk. How do you walk the talk?
Yeah. So it's basically when you follow the principles that you are establishing to your team. So imagine that I come to you and say that, oh, for now on, let's pick a very simplistic example. I am setting expectations to all my managers that they need to deliver timely performance conversations to all their team members. But I am never delivering performance conversations because I think I have stuff more important to do. So it's disconnected. The principles that I want my team to follow, which I am role modeling them to follow. You know, how can I foster for integrity on my team if I am the first person that whenever the opportunity comes, I will try my best to cut corners regardless of the impact and not taking ownership and etc. So your team, I like to say that your team, it's your reflex. If you look to a mirror, you as a leader, the image that you will see on the other side is your team. So if your team is dysfunctional, it's because you are a dysfunctional leader. So what can you do to change that?
Sure. I think people always say, don't they, you can't expect your team to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself, which I think is hugely important. And the next one that you've got on there is know your people, which I know you're extremely passionate about. We kind of touched on before. So, like, what level of, because there's everything from like knowing strengths and weaknesses like at work, knowing them outside of work, knowing even like neurodivergent needs that they might have. Like, what level do people actually need to kind of know each person on their team?
Yeah. I like to say that you don't need to become better friends, like best friends forever. That's not the point here. But if you don't know how this person is outside of the work, in the minimum, like, do you have kids? What are your passions? Do you have any hobby? Like, what do you do for? Where do you live? What do you like? What do you really like to do? And etc. Stuff like that. It's impossible for you to better manage and to have a better judgment in your daily basis with your reports. A very simplistic example here. Uh, I had a report, married, 3 kids, 3 small kids, and I knew that this guy was having a trouble in his marriage. Then one of the kids got really sick. No one was aware of that, but this was discussed during one-on-ones and etc. And then I got a feedback about him from other people from the team, about his performance, about organization, about skills that he was demonstrating before and excelling on those skills. And people were noticing some decrease and some underperformance in some specific topics. And then in a very candid discussion, like, what's going on, man? Oh, I'm having a very bad time in that topic. I said, let's do the following. Take a few days, clean your mind, recharge the batteries, support your kids, come back to work. Oh, but I don't have any extra day offs. Like, end of the year, in Portugal here, we have 20 days of vacation per year. So he didn't have enough days to take. And I said, okay, just go there. I get your back. Like the system, it's just a bureaucracy. Just go there. If you are not feeling well, just go there. Ensure that you are in a position where you can bring your best self for your team. So just go there. You know, if I didn't know the situation, if I didn't create the relationship, if I didn't try to understand our common grounds, I have kids, so I know what is look like having a kid sick. I know what is looking like having a bad situation in the marriage. So what is the point for me to push for a high performance when this person is suffering from the mental perspective, or like he just need a time? And it's not a vacation that will allow or not allow this person to bring the best self, you know. So I really advise any tech leader, again, this is not about becoming best friends forever, but understand your people. Who are your people outside of the working hours? Do they have family? Do they have kids? Do you know the kid's name? Like, and for sure, this is challenging, Chris, because I had one report where I took almost 6 months to understand like basic things from from her personal life. We need to respect like the timing, the trust. You know, it's not about like first call. Okay, man, tell me everything about your family.
Yeah,
It's not
give me
about
your
that.
family history,
Yeah.
like a medical background, like all of that. Like,
It's not about that, you know. You don't need you can't be intrusive, but in every opportunity you have in your one-on-ones, try to connect from the personal level.
do you do
Not
the similar to what we were talking about at the start? Do you share things kind of about yourself
I
and
do.
kind of your life so that it's kind of slowly
Definitely.
reciprocated over time in these one-on-ones?
Yeah. This needs to be a two-way street, because otherwise you cannot create trust. You can't build trust. Like just making this all about Chris. You know, it's the interview with Chris. I just need to know everything about you, but you don't have the right to know everything about me. You know, so we need to balance things here.
Yeah, for sure. Next one you've got is meaningful feedback. So you talking here in one-on-ones, in group settings, a mixture of both?
Yeah, it's a mix of both, but specifically, I like to say there is a concept from the Radical Candor book from Kim Scott, where she puts like you need to challenge personally, but you care like publicly. Something like that. Maybe I am not quoting this in the most perfect time, but whenever you need to challenge your team, challenge your team. It's not just a pat in the back when they are doing a great job. Okay, why am I doing a great job? What did I do that for you to come to me and say that I am doing a great job? I really would like to understand, what did I do? In the same way, for the critical feedback, to the uncomfortable conversation, specifically for aspiring leaders, Chris, because we are so focused on myself. I did this. I am used to do this, to get this, to get that. It's really hard for aspiring leaders to embrace uncomfortable conversation, because uncomfortable conversation will require probably the ultimate level of people management to keep it focused on the behavior or not in the person, because it happens that during your career you will manage people that probably you are not like the best friend. You really have a thing, you don't stand being close to this person, but you need to manage this person because it's not about you, it's about the team. And having these uncomfortable conversations is super challenging to keep them meaningful, actionable, and focused on the behavior and not on the person. Like you need to remove the bias. So by the time that you focus on creating meaningful feedbacks, like the behavior again, the impact, the context, setting expectations, sharing how you felt about what happened, you know, then you are changing completely the game. I really like the non-violent communication model for this. Like, it really fosters about requests, feelings, needs. And by the time that you understand this model and you embrace the vulnerability, because it's not nice to say, oh man, you really triggered me, you know? You know what? I had a very, very bad time to self-regulate myself because you really triggered me with this. When you did this, it's not about like, oh, dude, you really triggered me because you were a jerk when you said that. This is my evaluation. Maybe what is a jerk for me is it's not a jerk for you, you know. And it's really hard for people to understand this difference.
Yeah, for sure. And I think and that's a really interesting point in itself, because I feel like particularly with global teams and people coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, even just two people that have grown up in literally the streets apart, but with very different upbringings, like the communication styles can be completely different. And one point I always love to come back to is particularly over digital communication,
Mm-hmm.
that a full stop for some people is good punctuation in like a Slack message, and for other people it's aggressive, like to be to put a full stop at the end of it, because people have either adopted digital communication or they haven't. And like even that, just a full stop can be read completely differently by two
Yeah.
different people just on the way that they do things. Like you need to really understand like where people are coming from, and almost just be open to the fact that like that annoyed me, but did they mean it to annoy me? Like it's I was reading something the other day. My business partner is always giving that emoji to me, like literally thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. For me, like, and I saw a thing. I've got ADHD, and I saw a thing the other day on the Chatter podcast that apparently it's, as a person with ADHD, it makes me feel like I'm not worthy of a response. Like, because, but for him, he's just like, that's the quickest thing. Like, I've done what I need to do. And us having a conversation about that just made it so much easier. And I didn't realize why I was getting annoyed by it until I
Yeah.
saw that thing. So, so many little things like that that I think you need to be aware of and need to kind of learn over time, and being able to have an open conversation about what happened without being like, you did this, and like
Mm-hmm.
blaming, I think is so important. And I think the other part to that in terms of feedback is I find that leaders either tend to lean towards praise or lean towards what's the opposite of praise? I'm having a mind blank. Like kind of like discipline, or like telling people like negative feedback is either positive
Mm-hmm.
feedback or negative feedback, and they're not so good at the other one, because they find it uncomfortable. And I feel like it's being able to get a good balance of both, like you said, being
Mm-hmm.
able to tell people when they've done a good job, but also what they can improve on at the same time. And I feel like there's always an area of weakness within people. Have you seen that yourself?
A lot. And I have I have been observing specifically in these times, for instance, that people really try not only to be straight to the point, like finding the balance between the appraisal, between delivering critical feedback and etc. But I think when we try to mix both to compensate or to diminish the uncomfortability of the conversation, I mean, the sandwich method or whatever the name people use. Like, you need to have a difficult conversation. You know that you need to deliver that because you care. But instead of having a candid conversation, you have, oh man, you know what? You are doing great. I really love it the way that you conducted that conversation, but we have this situation here where you were a jerk. but but don't feel sad because you are doing great. Like, dude, just go to the point, you know, because you
Shit
care.
sandwich, I think, is what they call that.
Yeah. You know,
You're
and
a lovely person. You're a lovely person most of the time. You're a bit of an asshole here, but and I really like your shoes. Like it's
yeah,
just
it's like,
like just like
I really hate this method. And it's interesting because when I started in leadership, that was the main thing that I also got taught about feedback. Use the sandwich method to deliver feedback. Use the sandwich method to deliver feedback. But if you really care with your people, please stop using the sandwich method. Stop pretending that things are okay when they are not okay. If you need to praise, if you need to share a win to celebrate, celebrate with all your heart. Like you are doing amazingly great because amidst this storm, you did this, and that. And that's exactly what I expect from you because you are setting the tone. You are leading the way. Keep doing this. If you need to celebrate, celebrate, man. But if you have to have an uncomfortable conversation, prepare yourself and have a very candid conversation. At the end of the day, you will see that people will appreciate that. Maybe they will have a very hard time to digest all the information, but they will appreciate you because you care. And it's just a default. When we hear something that put ourselves out of our comfort zone, the default behavior is just to get close, to get angry, to get triggered, to get defensive. But I ensure you that they will appreciate your candidness because you are caring with your people. So if you have to celebrate, celebrate. It's not about celebrating like critical feedback, but after all, let's celebrate again. No, or you celebrate or you deliver an uncomfortable situation. Period. This is because you care. It's not about diminishing and making the conversation less uncomfortable. Just face it as it is.
How would you have you got a particular framework you use for delivering like negative feedback in like the best way? Like you said,
Yeah.
like doing it in like a shit sandwich method is terrible. Like, but like you said, you could go too far with negative feedback. You might have got the context wrong. Like you might have a lot of the time as well as a manager. It's like almost like he said, she said. Like like you've done something to annoy like someone else. It might not even be you. You've just heard something has happened, and you need to kind of deal with something. So do you like what's kind of like your go-to method in
Mm-hmm.
in delivering or finding out what's happened in like a negative scenario?
Yeah. One thing that I noticed that helps a lot, it's just to try to anticipate that this will be an uncomfortable situation. So imagine that we are entering here now and we need to have one of them. Chris, dude, thank you for meeting with me. I know that you are busy, but this probably will be a very uncomfortable conversation, but it's something that we need to have. But I would like to hear your thoughts. I will share how I am feeling and how this is coming from, but don't take it for granted. I would love to hear your perspective because maybe like I can be wrong, but this is how I am perceiving the situation. And then you come with the context, like with the observation. The problem of having the uncomfortable conversation, it's because managers just miss the point on framing the situation. They just jump in and say, "Oh, you missed the point here. It was not really great." So, Chris, during that team session that we were having, I noticed that you were speaking over people all the time, and I felt very frustrated because you know what? We are trying to create an environment here where everyone feel heard. Like we want to avoid top-down things, top-down decisions. And by the time that I only hear your opinion, I feel a little bit frustrated because I cannot get the other's opinion. And then I feel that I am not making, I don't, might not have enough data to make my decision as accurate as possible. Right? How do you feel this? Did you notice that you were interrupting people all the time? And then you hear the other side. Because surprisingly, maybe the other side just don't have awareness about what was happening. And then here is where we start creating the appreciation, the gratitude, but otherwise it's intentional. And then it's
Yeah.
on you as like, okay, but are you aware about the impact that this had? Like people are coming to me and complaining. I noticed it like from visual cues that you lost people there, man. People got a bit uncomfortable. So how do you feel this? How can we ensure that everyone is talking, everyone is feeling like included in the discussion and so on? So it's way more about framing the context and what is driving you to deliver this feedback, rather than just delivering the punch and that's it. So from now on, just get better.
Yeah.
It won't happen.
Not
It won't work.
not I love that, and I love the framing part to that. Like it's such a simple thing, and that genuinely felt like I was being told off. Like so, like that was very real for me. But no, I love the framing aspect, and it's such a simple change to just be like, look, like this is going to be a bit uncomfortable. I'm going to give you I want to hear your side of things, but I'm going to give you my side, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
your turn to speak. Like rather than just being like, hey, by the way, like you shouldn't have done this, like which is probably how most of those conversations go. Like literally just adding those two things, like first of all teeing up this is going to be a bit of an uncomfortable conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and then second, I'm going to give you my side. I want to hear your side. I may be wrong, but like I'm going to give you my side, and then we'll go into your side. Is that okay? Like
Exactly. Exactly.
was that 15 seconds to add to the start, and then like people will either be like, oh, I had no idea that I did that,
Mm-hmm.
or which can be a really positive conversation, because I feel like people, particularly when they switch environments and stuff like that, they like it might have been fine the way that they were in a previous team, or they might have worked on their own or something like that, and what they're doing now just doesn't fit your team, or
Mm-hmm.
no one's told them before, and they've always annoyed people, and they might be like, oh god, like I can't believe that I have been doing that. I really appreciate you letting me know. Or they might be like, actually, like this is what happened, and you've already then you framed it so that you can be like, cool, like that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate your side of things, like that. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up in a situation where you kind of egg on your face because you've not gone all guns blazing, being like, oh, this is what happened, when
Yeah.
you only know potentially half the story, right? So
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I think that's great, and that probably moves on quite well to the next point you've got, which is active listening. So
Totally.
what does that mean as a manager?
Yeah. The thing is, hearing is different than listening. And most of times what I notice is if we are having a one-on-one, I do expect that if I am your report, I do expect that your attention for this moment is mine, that you are doing your best to understand my point of view, my struggles, my desires, my request. But the problem here is I see a bunch of people jumping in one-on-ones, for instance, and having a chat here with the report while creating a report or answering an email. You need to practice presence, because if you are not present, if you are not sharing your attention fully with your report, you are just hearing, you are not listening. And the danger here is if you are hearing only, you cannot first understand nonverbal cues, you cannot understand the momentum, the hidden and unspoken truth or significant points in the conversation, unspoken needs, and this is extremely different when you are actually active listening. Like you are demonstrating interest on having that chat because you really care. It's all about caring. So I am having this problem. Okay, you are understanding the problem and you will think about, okay, dude, but what can I do to help you overcome this? Like, is there something that you see that I might do to facilitate or something like that? It's different than when you are hearing. If you are hearing, you are not there. You are just like checking one more session in your life, in your day, in your agenda, you know. So we really need to focus on and dedicate ourselves, our attention to practice presence when we are talking with people. This is how it
Have you
translates.
Yeah. Have you implemented either yourself or with your team? I don't know, things like turn off Slack or turn off email, put your phone away, like even just little things like that, or do you kind of just do them yourselves and it kind of expect the same from the other person?
Yeah, this is super hard to establish processes on this sense. what you can do here is to role model, to set expectations, and when you see that something's going wrong, it's to have the uncomfortable conversation. If I am noticing that in a very critical discussion you are everywhere but not here, okay, I won't just put you in the spotlight during the session and say, oh man, what the hell are you doing here? But I will ensure that we will discuss about the situation, and I will share my expectations with you, like, was something happen? Because sometimes it's something urgent happening. I don't know. And that's why it's important for us to have a candid discussion, to ask about, not make assumptions. We need to validate our assumptions, because sometimes things are wrong for us, but actually there is a reason behind this. So I think it's really hard to implement this kind of processes. And it's all about role modeling yourself and also delivering the feedback whenever you need to deliver the feedback.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you said, one is like what we went back to right at the start of, you can't expect people to do things that you're not doing yourself. So if it's annoying you that people are checking their emails or checking their phone, like whilst you're having a one-on-one, but you're replying to stuff yourself, like you can't, it has to go both ways. And then I think on the other side is, like you said, understanding the context behind the thing that's happened. Like you said, someone might just leave a very important meeting, or like you might be on a video meeting, someone mutes themselves, answers a call, and then joins back, which might annoy you at the time, but you said it might be a family emergency or something like that. So but it might have been like a food delivery, which they shouldn't be doing. It's like you don't know the context, and you need to know what that is. So having that framed conversation about, this is what happened, this is kind of like my side of things, would love to hear like why or kind of what happened there. And then you got two more points which I really like. You put, one is hiring is easy but retaining is challenging.
Yeah.
And obviously I know that as a recruiter, I spend all day, every day helping people hire people, and I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's definitely easier than keeping people. I'm assuming you mean sort of like long term, and once you've invested that time in people, actually keeping people past the 18-month mark, which is the kind of expiry date of a lot of people if they're not treated right.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, retaining, for you to have a good strategy to retain your great talents, like it's basically when you blend all these principles together. A very, very quick example. Like 2 months ago, I got a notice letter. Not expecting that at all. I said, okay, man, but what is actually happening here? And the background from this person was competitive programming, super high performing, super growth oriented. And we entered in a phase where we were not pushing him enough, because we had a very, very harsh moment where we had to run the extra mile multiple times, but then we achieved like the balance. And when he was mentioning that to me, I asked him about what were the drivers and etc., and he never mentioned about the background. And I said, okay, dude, I guess I think where this is coming from. You have a background in competition, like you are a competitor in programming things. So I do understand that you want to be engaged in the most complex problems and etc. And he cut me off and said, did you remember that? I said, yeah, but I am here for 2 years. And do you remember that I use it to do competitions in programming? I said, yeah, that was one of the traits that I really loved when you shared with me when I hired you. And Raphael, let's do the following. Can you just send me to another team? And I really want to learn about this specific thing. This team, I know that it's passing through a moment where they need some extra hands there. Does it make sense? I said, this makes total sense, man. So let's just ensure that we will make this happen. But what else? What can we do to improve? Because if we have one person feeling like that, we have multiple person in silence suffering from the same stuff, you know. But the thing is, what can you do with this information? How can you ensure that you are able to motivate your people, to push your people? And then we came with hackathons, we came with knowledge sharing sessions, we created a dedicated coaching program, we expanded the impact through all the organization, we created cross-functional initiatives and etc. So sometimes we will face challenges and people will ask to leave because they found other thing. And we must be happy, first of all, because they found something great. But the question is, do you know why they want to leave? What are the real motivations? What are the deepest desire driving this decision? In this case, like programming, competitions, like super complex problems and etc. Easy to solve, you know. So it's way more like that. How can you do it? To recognize that you will have obstacles, your people will leave at some point. You cannot do anything about this. Everything that you can do is to congratulate, to support, to provide a better offboarding experience and be happy for the new challenge. But for those situations where you can control the outcome, what are you doing to ensure that you are retaining your talent? It's just a choice that you can do. No.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you said, a lot of that comes back to trust, right? And people being able to have those conversations with you. Because I think in an environment where people don't feel comfortable talking to you about their career goals and aspirations and what they want, if they're not 100% certain that they can have the thing that they need from their next, like their next thing, it's easier for them to hand in their notice and go find it somewhere else than it is to ask you for the potential that you might say, no, sorry, that's not an option. And you know that they're not happy. Whereas no one should ever leave your team for a reason that you could have solved yourself, which I think is
Mhm.
almost criminal, right? Like if someone needs another, whether it's another $2,000 or whether it's to be working on a different bit of tech that you've got internally, if you could do that for them and they leave, like, terrible job as a leader. But
Yeah.
if there's not an opportunity for them, say that they need to be physically in a location where you can't support them, they want to be working on a tech that you can't give them access to, or they want to be at a level that either you don't see them at or you don't have a position open for them at, you've got to kind of be like, look, you know what, like you need to go and I support that, and,
Mhm.
and kind of be in that position. But if there's something that you can solve, like, you should always be aware of those, and you've got to create that environment of trust where people feel comfortable in kind of telling you those things. And one of those is kind of your last point, right? You said promote when you have to promote, which is,
Yeah.
I'm assuming, one of the biggest reasons why people leave teams is to kind of get pay rises and promotions.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big one. It's super hard, for instance, when you get a notice and when you are discussing it's like 40% raise. There are situations that it's just you can just don't do anything about this, you know. But the thing is, imagine that you have the business need, you have the budget, but for some reason you are holding back promoting someone because you guess you shouldn't. Like the person has the potential, very good pitch from others, but you are holding. Let me just share one example. A few years ago, I had a person that went in parental leave, like in March, beginning of the year, parental leave, and we have a reward cycle. This person couldn't be promoted in that cycle, and then immediately went on parental leave. When the time comes for a new promotion cycle, we were not considering that person anymore, which was quite a surprise due to the history, you know. And when I asked, okay, why we are not promoting this person now? And the answer was, oh, because this person is on parental leave. Like, even if we promote this person, due to all the laws and etc., this person would benefit from the promotion only when the person is back from the parental leave. And the question was, okay, do we have the business need? Yeah, we have. How do you evaluate if this person wasn't in parental leave? Would you promote this person? Yeah, for sure. This person deserves a lot. This person is doing a lot for the team, delivering a bunch of impact. So why are you not promoting this person? Just because the person had a baby? So are we really having this conversation, So if you have everything that you have to promote this person and you feel that this person has the potential, you have the business need, you have the budget, and you are just holding back the promotion for this person, you have two options. The first one, you recognize that probably you are not having a good judgment here. And the second one, you can prepare yourself for a notice letter. No, because if you want to kill a relationship, to kill the motivation from someone, is just show that you don't care with their growth. Especially when you don't have a very good and a strong motive to push back on promotion. So start promoting people. Don't wait for, it's easier said than done. There are a bunch of variables that we need to consider to promote someone. But if you have the majority of those variables checked, why not? What is holding you back to celebrate, to promote, to recognize? Just do it. Just do it. Because eventually, if you don't promote, I'm pretty much sure that your competitor will somehow find this person and you will lost a very good talent just because you are holding back promoting someone that really deserves. So just promote it.
Fantastic. Well, no, I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate all of your points there. For yourself, obviously your book's out, and people can kind of check that out, and I'll share the link in the Substack and along with the posts. If people want to reach out to you specifically around kind of like your coaching or kind of questions on stuff, like where's the best place to get in contact with you? Is it LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you will have all my contacts there. There are a few resources as well. So feel free, if you are willing to prepare for interviews, to prepare for a leadership role, just drop me a DM there. And in the meantime, if you are not ready, use all the resources available that I have on my profile there.
Amazing. And I guess outside of, obviously you've got to recommend your own book and this podcast for leadership advice, they're the best two places to go. But outside of that, like as an engineering leader yourself, like I know you said you're a fan of books, and like what are some of your favorites, sort of like recommendations? You mentioned Radical Candor
Yeah.
by Kim Scott before. Like what other ones would you recommend people checking out?
Yeah. Radical Candor. I really like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from Stephen Covey. These are brutal. Like, start with the end in mind. It's a must read for everyone. But another one that it's on my top 3, Extreme Leadership. Extreme Leadership, I think it sets the tone for this new way of leading. It basically combines all the principles that we have discussed here in that book. So it's just amazing. If you mix up Radical Candor with extreme ownership, you have something very beautiful at hand.
Fantastic. And then you've listed a few sort of like podcasts here as well, which I'll share. Like which are your favorites of this list?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jocko Willink, which is the author from Extreme Leadership, Extreme Ownership. I really like also the podcast from Radical Candor, King Scott. And as someone that suffers with anxiety and I need to get things done, The Anxious Achiever. So I really love this one in specific because it really focuses on how you can get things done, fighting back your anxiety, which it's quite common for leaders. So, yeah, these are my top 3.
Amazing. Well, I'll share all those and all of your links. But yeah, thanks, Raphael. I really appreciate your
Thank you,
time,
man.
and hopefully have you back on again at some point in the future.
Thank you, man. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Cheers.